Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to the dceu Daily. Remember, you can tag me and tweet me and follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad for as long as my Twitter existence lasts, because I'm just being triggered by everyone right now and it's really hard to keep my mouth shut. Yes, we live in polarizing time, and because there's not much news out there in the DC live action world or the comic universe, I thought I'd talk about something else. Toxic fandom versus toxic Hollywood. So I came across this article from the Hollywood Reporter. Now, if you follow me on Twitter already, you know that I reacted to the title without reading it. So on today's dceu Daily, we are going to read it with no interruption. Then I'm going to give you my view on it. So let's do this. From Justice League to Star Wars, studios reckon with toxic fandom. Hollywood majors are learning they can't be silent about what happens on social media, but as one rep cautions, if you're speaking out, you have to speak out for everyone. When Zack Snyder's Justice League hit HBO Max on March 18th, it marked the culmination of years of long effort by a devoted group of DC fans to allow the director to finish a film he left in 2017. Along the way, Snyder fans raised $500,000 for suicide prevention in honour of the filmmaker's late daughter, Autumn. Despite the positive, a small but vocal segment of that fandom used social media to threaten and harass fellow fans, as well as Warner Media's executives they perceived as standing in the way of the cut. Warner Media Studios CEO Ann Sarnoff made waves March 22nd when she condemned such behaviour in an interview with Variety, saying, "I'm very disappointed in the fans that have chosen to go to that negative place with regard to DC, with regard to some of our executives." Those comments represented a break from the norm of studios publicly ignoring unsavoury elements within fan bases, even if, as they seek to find new ways to monetize those audiences. In years past, Sony watched trolls attack its 2016 female-led Ghostbusters reboot. Marvel Studios saw Captain Marvel's Rotten Tomatoes scores sandbagged, and Lucasfilm was silent as Star Wars' John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran endured racist abuse. Well, actually, I'm going to interrupt this. Isn't it Lucasfilm themselves that removed John Boyega from a poster that was going to be shown for the last, not for the Last Jedi, for the what was it called? What's the last film called now? The Rise of Skywalker. They removed, right, because we know what they're like in China without going into it, they removed a picture in a poster for The Rise of Skywalker of John Boyega, not to annoy or upset that community in China. I want you to think about that for a minute. So as they talk about the toxic fandom, right, this is so bogus. This whole part I've read so far, and this is the first time me reading it, is absolutely bogus. But I thought I'd bring up the fact that Lucasfilm removed John Boyega from a Rise of Skywalker poster that was going to be displayed in China. So you think about that. Will they mention that on here? Of course they won't. But Hollywood majors are now learning that they can't always remain silent about what happens on social media. Disney's Lucasfilm has been at the forefront of the conversation. In January, cosplayer and host Christina Arrayal faced racist attacks and threats after the studio named her host of the High Republic show. Now, again, this is, look, we're going to really have to go through this with a fine-tooth comb. A Bamfleet show on StarWars.com and YouTube giving an inside look at Galaxy Far, Far Away. Ahead of the show's debut, previous tweets from Ariel denouncing systematic racism, essentially calling upon white people to own their role in it. So this is what happened, because I do follow the fandom menace, especially geeks and gamers. And I remember them going on about this. But when you talk about white people, all white people owning their racism, aren't you being racist yourself? Again, this is where we are living in very polarizing times. And this is propaganda, people. This is one-sided propaganda from Access Media. This really does look like the continuation of their hit piece from Ann Sarnoff's Variety article. where resurfaced she received numerous threats via social media. Have you noticed we're not seeing any of these threats or anything in this article? Says something, doesn't it? She received numerous threats via social media rather than remain silent. Lucasfilm swiftly backed Ariel, stating on Twitter on January the 22nd, "Our Star Wars community is one of hope and inclusivity. We support I don't even know how to say her name, Christina Ariel. The hashtag I stand with Christina sprung up to support Ariel." Now, they're framing this as racist abuse, right? But you could say, well, Ariella, right, or Christina Ariel, or whatever her name is, right, started the racist abuse towards white people first. So other people, right, white Star Wars fans, responded to that. Hate, no matter in what guise it's in, right, is hatred. So if hate is met with hate, what do we get? Well, we get a civil war. But again, this article isn't going to discuss that. This is about painting the fans as toxic. For Moya Bailey, a scholar who has studied harassment of black women, here we go again, online, Lucasfilm's statement felt noteworthy. A lot of people have been on their own managing the backlash of long and deep-seated racist stereotypes alone. And so having the entertainment industry understand that it makes a difference when they come forward and support you is a huge turning point, says Bailey, assistant professor at Northeastern University of author and forthcoming book, Misogynoir Transformed, Black Women's Digital Resistance. You see what's going on in Hollywood and in the media now. It's all about racism. It's all about sexism. It's not about entertainment. What you're doing, you're triggering people all the time. You're triggering people with your conversations all the time. How many times do you talk about people who are homeless, who are starving, third world countries suffering with famine? Never. This is the conversations of the far left, and they're triggering conversations. I've told you before, the far left and the far right have one thing in common. They all hate different groups of people, and they have become the central political conversation. But what's worse here is that this has been dragged into the entertainment industry. They've watered it down, and every single film, every single lead is about this conversation. So they are driving people away. They hate their customers, right? But what they really want to do is drive men in their 40s, like me, out of this industry, right? From enjoying it, from being a consumer. Do you know what? You've been successful, so congratulations. Thankfully, I've got VHS, I've got Blu-ray, I've got 4K. When the industry was less toxic. You don't want people like me consuming your stuff? That's fine. We won't consume your stuff. You'll become bankrupt, and that's entirely your priority, your prerogative, right? Wow, I thought this was going to be a really long article. So, should we go through this? Let's do that. And so, this is very interesting. So, we start on the theme of Hollywood not staying silent on social media toxicity. So, if we talk about the Snyder fandom, who have allegedly, a minority of us, by the way, not me, not you, but a minority of us have threatened executives. Where's your evidence, right? I'm not saying it doesn't exist, right? But where's your evidence? How can you, journalists, right? Because when I was growing up, journalists actually had evidence to back up what they were talking about. So how can you, journalists, come up here and talk about executives being threatened and other opposing fans being threatened when you've got nothing to back it up with? So there's that point. Despite the positives, a small but vocal segment of that fandom used social media to threaten and harass fellow fans. So basically, they were trying to say that Ann Sarnoff was being brave in the Variety article, you know, kind of exposing toxic fans. That's not what she was doing. It was a hit piece. And so is this. It's very interesting because I hadn't read this when I saw the title and I was a little bit triggered by it. And I was very excited to kind of pull this to pieces. But it's not even a big article. They don't even have the imagination to do a proper hit piece. So anyway, when Warner Media Studios CEO Ann Sarnoff made waves March the 22nd when she condemned such behaviour in an interview with Variety, saying, "I'm very disappointed in the fans that have chosen to go to that negative place with regard to DC. With regard to some of our executives, right, I have never seen any executives being threatened. What executives are you being threatened? Are you talking about when people talk about Kevin Sujihara, right? Rightfully saying his own toxicity. I want you to think about that, right? This guy was sacked for literally sleeping with a woman and giving her jobs within the entertainment industry. When are you going to talk about that? Never. Let's talk about this industry, actually. Toxic fandom versus toxic Hollywood. Toxic Hollywood has the history of rape, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, covering up murders, right? Paedophilia. I could go on. We all know what the casting couch means. Basically, girl, if you sleep with me, you get the job. That's the industry that they never talk about, unless it's about their alt-left agenda when they're always labelling white men in their 40s who have done this kind of behaviour, but always protecting the women who have actually behaved this way as well. It's all about agendas. There's not many truths being spoken here. Then comments represented a break from the norm of studios publicly ignoring unsavoury elements within the fan bases, even as they seek to find new ways to monetize those audiences. So now, right, all of a sudden, studios are being brave and bold for calling out toxic fans. So basically, they talk about, what was it? Ghostbusters 2016. Right. Excuse me. So Ghostbusters 2016 had a lot of toxicity aimed at it. Toxicity that I wasn't a part of, by the way. When I heard they were doing a female Ghostbusters, I just felt calmly, why couldn't we have 2 men and 2 women in this film? Why couldn't it be true representation and equality, being equal, men and women working together to slay these ghosts, right? What was the problem with that? So they went with this all-female team. Look, for me, you can't reboot Ghostbusters anyway with men, women, whoever. It's not going to work. It worked in that era, 2 great movies, but you can't do it again. So this was always doomed to fail, not necessarily because it was an all-female team. But when Paul Feig, the director, was coming out talking about girl power and things like that, it triggered people. These things happen. But I will say some of the toxicity towards the Ghostbusters 2016 cast and director is very real and very true, and I can't defend that. So that's a good point. But still, no one came out and really said this, but there were a lot of alt-rights who went at these women, and there's no question about that. I can't deny that. So they're using this film as part of their agenda, but I can't stand here and defend the fans because that film was, the stuff leveled at that film was beyond reproach, and I can't condone that. So we move on. So, and then we get the Lucasfilm was silent as Star Wars stars John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran endured racist abuse. Right, I like Kelly Marie Tran. When I saw The Last Jedi, a film I found very boring and underwhelming, I thought she played a beautiful role. I thought her character was sweet and adorable. I really liked, I forgot what her character's name was, but I thought Kelly did a really, really good job, and I had no issue with her. Now, could there have been an element of fans that went after her because we had an Asian character in Star Wars taking prominence? I think so. But let's look at the racism here. Again, there's no proof of any racism. There's no screenshots. Why? Why isn't there any screenshots of all the threats? I'm not saying they're not true, but as a journalist, surely you should have evidence to back up what you're saying. But anyway, let's look at the racism, right? If you know your history, you'll know that Asian people and black people, people of colour, haven't got a good history. There's a lot of hatred and bad feeling amongst those two cultures. I believe the whole idea of having Kelly Marie Tran's character and John Boyega's character together was to try and create some kind of peace. So look, isn't it good that these two people from these two backgrounds are getting on? Everyone else from these communities should get on as well. That's how I feel Rian Johnson was trying to do it. It was a pure thing to do. But here, and I don't think he was purposely trying to be racist with what he did, because I'm going to explain to you something. What he did, he took an Asian character and a character of colour, took them away from the white characters and had them in their own little mission. For me, that's kind of a racist thing to do. Now, I'm not saying that Rian was trying to be racist purposely. I'm just saying, from the outside looking in, you're talking about racist fans, you're talking about toxic fans, taking away an Asian character and a character of colour away from the white characters. Why aren't they good enough to be on the central adventure? J.J. Abrams spent a whole movie in The Force Awakens, right? and we had Finn and Ray. They had this great banter and chemistry. I was really excited to see them together in the second film, and they were kept apart. That was so wrong, and it ruined everything that JJ built. So you want Kelly Marie Tran to come in. She's really great. I like Kelly Marie Tran. I don't have an issue with Kelly Marie Tran. But the whole thing is that she was put in this film not because of her talent, which she has an abundance of, but to make an alt-left political statement, right? Now, I am never all right with someone being bullied because of their race or because they're a woman. And if you did this to her, if you went at this woman, you are guilty. And this article is aiming at you. And that's fine, right? But the point being, right, that at the end of the day, if that new Asian character and the character of colour, which was really well developed with John Boyega and Finn, right, was with the rest of the people, I think that would have worked a lot more. But I do think maybe there was a racist element there. But again, that's fine. We talk about racist fans. But again, there's no balance in the conversation, because then what happens is that we don't mention the point about the poster that I mentioned. You know, The Rise of Skywalker, we have a person of colour, one of the main characters in the sequel trilogy, and Lucasfilm removed his image off a poster because they didn't want to upset the racist Chinese government. Think about that for a minute. That's racism. When are you going to discuss that? Anyway. So where are we now? So I want to find the other incident, right? Where are we? Because we've gone past what I want to talk about. So, now, yeah, then we're talking about this woman from this show who came out talking about white male prejudice or white prejudice, white racism. So straight away, what that woman did, what that person did, because I've got to be careful, I'm not sure who she identifies as, right? So we've got to be careful these days. As I say, it's a really polarizing thing. And I'll be honest, I don't know how to identify everyone. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, right? I think I know what he, him means. I think I know what her, she, her, or however it's phrased. I think that's like a woman who's already a woman, and I think he, him is already a man who's a man. And I'm assuming, like, if someone identifies as she, him, then that's a transgender person. But, you know, I've really got to be educated myself with all these terms. As I say, we live in a depressing, polarizing society. And I think this thing where people are obsessed with how they identify, if they identify as a black woman, a black man, a Greek Cypriot man, I think that's a really skin-deep thing. Because I know I'm a Greek Cypriot man, but I don't need you to refer to me as a Greek Cypriot man. It means nothing to me. What I want you to see is my personality and my character, and hopefully my talent and my passion, right? And this is the polarizing society we live in today. So anyway, right, they then talk about this woman who's got her own show on the website, or the Star Wars website. What she did was she triggered people by talking about racist white people, right? You see, the conversation from the alt-left, and I think some of their conversations come from a really good place, but it's the way they sell their message. It's terrible. So when they talk about racism, systemic racism from the past, they talk about white men in their 40s. How do you think white men react? When you tell a white man, you're all racist, right? And even if you're not racist blatantly, in your mind you're racist, right? Or because you undressed a woman with your eyes because she looks amazing, and when you're in bed at night, you're fantasizing about doing things to her, you're a bad person, right? These are the insane conversations that are going on right now, and people react. Let me explain to you the concept of social media. You go up your timeline, you see an opposing opinion that's really toxic, right? And challenges how you feel. Now, most of us are mentally stable enough to not lose our shit totally about that, but there are also mentally unstable people who will threaten, who are aggressive, and they come at me as well. And it's difficult, and it makes you feel shitty for about a day, right? We know that. We know social media is a really difficult place to manage. But let's be absolutely clear here. This article isn't about toxic fans. It's propaganda. This, my friends, is an article of fear. Yes, fear, my friends. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's not a substantial piece. As I've already said, I'm shocked it wasn't a longer piece. It was very short, And this was bought and paid for from Lucasfilm and Warner Brothers Pictures, not Warner Media, Warner Brothers Pictures, because they framed it as threats against Warner Media executives. That's not really true, is it? If any threats were made, and I'm not condoning those threats, they were towards Warner Brothers Pictures, who treated Zack Snyder with the same toxicity. No, they didn't threaten Zack's life, but they used the death of his daughter to drive him off a project. You can't get more toxic than that. But the whole immorality and spin, right, of this article is, we'll talk about the fans, we'll talk about the paying customer that we're constantly abusing and triggering and calling them racists and sexists and every ism under the sun. Without us, you don't have an industry. Jesus Christ, Hollywood Reporter, without our money into this industry or clicking onto this, you have nothing either. We are keeping you afloat. Now, I'm not saying that people should stand for racism and sexism and abuse, but these are the conversations that are triggering people in the entertainment industry and in the entertainment media. Instead of opening up the conversation about famine in third world countries, homelessness, as I've already spoken about, important issues, these people from the alt-left side of the political conversation don't care about those people struggling. These are rich, I can promise you, people on the alt-left are very, very wealthy people who have very wealthy problems and have only got wealthy commentary to make. Only people who can afford to have these conversations have these conversations. But let's go away about it. Let's go away from the actual conversations. The term toxic fandom is propaganda, like Hitler had in the Second World War. This is propaganda from the media to create a concerted campaign against the paying customer. Doesn't really make sense, does it? Because the problem is we are now in an industry, in an entertainment industry, that has taken entertainment out of the industry's name. All they care about is their alt-left political commentary. Jesus Christ, we had Elizabeth Banks after, just before her Charlie's Angels movie was coming out, a movie she directed, may have wrote it as well, and starred in as well. She said, if this movie fails, I'm going to blame men. What kind of insane vocality is that? You're going to blame men because they weren't attracted to go and see your awful film. If your film was good and it was made by a talented person, because we all know that there's only one reason you're in there, Elizabeth, because you're connected and you passed the DNA test. That's it. You are not a talented actor. You're a solid actor at most, right? That's all you are. And you put out a toxic dialogue. If my film fails, it's not because it's no good. It's not because I'm not talented. It's because of men. And then you expect ordinary, mentally unstable people who can't handle these things to not be triggered and not attack you. You are waving the red rag purposely, just like this article is, to frame people as toxic fans. The very people who are your consumer, who you're actually making all this content in movie journalism and in the actual movies and TV shows. Everything now in its casting is about identity politics. Every script is about identity politics. It's not about entertainment anymore. And that's where we are. But it goes even deeper than that. This is an article that's not about what it's talking about. This is about the fandom menace when it comes to Star Wars, absolutely exposing Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm for destroying the sequel trilogy. Now, we know the fandom menace don't really care that deeply, and most of them are just doing it for money, and good luck to them, and good luck to you if you're watching this and you're from the fandom menace, right? Because I do watch some of your videos sometimes. You're very intelligent, clever people, how you frame your stuff. But even though I think most of you are just in it for the money, I will say this. What you do, you've done very well. An ordinary bunch of people who have exposed Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy for the untalented hacks that they actually are. Now we go over to my fandom, my movement, the Restore the Snyderverse community. I know a lot of people in that community, and I know this article says a small minority, but it's very important to understand what they're saying here. I don't even understand the point of the article. It was so short, and it was trying to say something without actually saying it. But let me tell you the real role of this article. Shall I tell you? You want me to tell you, don't you? They are shaking with fear. Warner Brothers Pictures don't know what to do, right? 1.5 million tweets for Restore the Snyderverse. It's killing them. Public figures supporting us in that cause. And they're scared. Their plans for the central universe are happening. They're going to happen. These films are going to start shooting and they don't know what to do. 1.5 million tweets beating the record of Avengers Endgame. Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut universally being loved. And they've got this plan and they've got to go forward with this plan. What are they going to do? They are in a pig's trough of a fucking mess, right? When you're trying to have a shower in a pig's trough, you stay dirty. That's my analogy there, right, everyone? This is the situation. What do? Cancel their plans? They can't. These films are going to be shooting, right? What are they going to do now? It's an utter mess. And they can't restore the Snyderverse. It's difficult for them because is Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman part of Zack's end or their end? It's a fucking mess. And it's been a mess from the very beginning when Christopher Nolan decided he didn't want to run this universe and he gave it over to Zack Snyder to do something that Warner Brothers Pictures, if they weren't happy and comfortable with him, they already knew him from Watchmen already, could have put a stop to it right then. And now it's an utter mess. And you know I love Zack's DCEU a great deal. But as a business person and as someone who's developing his own production company, I would have been looking at that situation very, very carefully. So it's a mess. They don't know what to do. So what are they going to do? I would imagine that they're not planning on restoring the Snyderverse, but they're going to come to some compromise with Snyder. Probably the idea of him directing Wonder Woman 3. Because let me explain to you how that works, basically. Privately, they know that Wonder Woman 1984 is an utter mess and the plot holes are bigger than Delilah's bucket, right? They know that. They know they don't want her to do Wonder Woman 3, even though they covered their backs by giving her Wonder Woman 3 straight away. But none of that announcement rang true to me. Again, I think that was Toby Emmerich. He jumped in there. Probably Warner Media didn't even know about it. You would think that everyone's on the same page. No. This is a company divided. This is a civil war. This is something that you have to understand. So they don't want Patty Jenkins doing Wonder Woman 3, but she's a woman. And you can't just remove a woman from a movie franchise that she directed 2 pictures from, right? So it's difficult. So how are they going to do that? Right now, I imagine they're telling her, listen, we want Zack to do this movie. We think you're very busy with Cleopatra and the Star Wars movie. We would want to go in this direction, and we would like it if you could be a producer, and we'll pay you this much for your producer credit. But we want Zack to do this, and you can put out an announcement that, you know, you're too busy to do it, and your friend Zack Snyder's going to do it. Very similar to what they did with Joss Whedon with Justice League, right? Justice League. That's a better name, isn't it? Justice League. Justice Weed, more like. So I believe Zack Snyder is going to direct Wonder Woman 3 and bring on his arc from Justice League 2 and 3 to maybe a Wonder Woman 3 and a Wonder Woman 4. Because they're not really going to want him to do Justice League, because they're planning their own Justice Leagues. That's what they're doing. And it gets confusing, right? Because yes, you can have Zack's end on HBO Max. And for me, it would work. But for them looking at it as a business, you know, it's a confusing situation. It isn't as easy as people think. Obviously, I want the Snyderverse restored. I don't want you to misunderstand me. But I think, you know, they're going to come to some compromise with Zack Snyder. And we know he's good at doing deals with them. And we know he's really good at negotiating. I'm sure Zack would like to do a Wonder Woman 3 and 4. But also, I'm sure he would like to do more Man of Steel movies with Henry Cavill. But more than anything, he knows that his fans want a Justice League 2 and 3. So it's going to be a difficult situation. But this, my friends, is what it's really about. We and the Fandom Menace have got these people shaken and not fucking stirred. And this, my friends, is all they've got. The Access Media doing poisonous little articles for them, right? In the end, which member of the consumer actually took this seriously? None. And by the way, how many famous people now who love Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut and who are being friendly with and getting on with, right, actually took this seriously? Nobody. The only people who are going to take any notice of this are the crazies in the alt-left who are full of toxicity. Remember, the alt-left and the alt-right hate different groups of people, and they hate each other. The alt-left and the alt-right are about hatred, right? And this is a civil war in itself, where the alt-left have dragged their politics and their political narrative into entertainment. They're killing entertainment. They've done it to Doctor Who. They've killed Doctor Who through their own narrative, right? They could have cast a really talented woman in that role, because I never had an issue with who plays the Doctor. You know, you could have a transgender person as the Doctor, a person of colour, an Indian person, a Chinese person. It really doesn't matter to me, as long as they have the talent and the showrunner has the ability to give the actor a great characterization. The Doctor can be anything or anybody. It really doesn't matter. But they took Jodie Whittaker, someone that Chris Chibnall worked with before, a woman who had never led anything, and that's fine, because lots of people haven't led things before and done well in their own show. But she just doesn't have what it takes inside of her to be an awesome Doctor. And Chris Chibnall, because he's an alt-leftist as well, is just interested in saying, well, here she is, she's a woman, we've represented women, and that's great, the end. This is the mentality. I'm trying to educate you here in what's going on. They are stripping away the entertainment of the industry, and now it's about political narrative. Even in this very article, they talk about someone from a book about, you know, representing black women, representing women. That's all they talk about. That's their go-to place to try and prove that everyone else is in the wrong side of history and they're on the right side of history. You're not on the right side of history. When we talk about representing black women, let's talk about representing black women. Black women are in the most represented female minorities. They are the most represented out there out of all the female minorities. They're more represented than Asian women, than Native American women, which America actually belongs to, by the way, by the rights and the fact that they were there first. Where's the representation for them? But we keep on talking about representing black women because it's a bit scary if someone talks about these false narratives and that these people are already being represented heavily. You know, more female women of colour being represented than these other minorities, right? But they always use women of colour because it's very difficult to come out with an argument with that, isn't it? But meanwhile, Ava DuVernay and all her female women of colour are being cast and represented, right? As long as they pass the DNA check, right? You know what I mean? But when it comes to Native American women and Asian women, you know, they're not getting the representation that women of colour are. So this is the disparity here. So their arguments never hold water. But as an actress, as an actor, as a public figure, to go on social media and say all white people are racist, what do you think is going to happen? But it doesn't really matter anyway, because it's not really about that conversation. This alt-left conversation really is about two things. The Restore the Snyderverse community trending with 1.5 million tweets and the fandom menace exposing Lucasfilm. And they exposed Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy every day they post. They've done it. I don't agree with their politics, right? I don't. But it doesn't mean they're bad people just because our politics are on the opposite, sides of the platform, right? It's just one of those things. Everyone's allowed to vote and believe in what they want, as long as they don't try and force those beliefs on other people. And I don't believe that anyone from the fandom menace has ever attempted to do this. If anything, it's the alt-left who try and force their political think on everybody. And if you don't agree with them, you're evil, you're a bad person, and you have to be cancelled. But make no mistake, this is a hit piece, my friends. It's a hit piece on the highest level. Never forget that. This was one of the worst hit pieces I've ever read, with no screenshots of any threats or any racism, nothing to back it up whatsoever. And basically, it's swung. It's very funny actually reading this, because the way they phrase things and the way they do things, it does. If you were a normie who didn't understand the situation, you'd go, oh, "This is so bad. Well done, studios. You're so brave for finally speaking out about this." But it's not bravery. They're covering up their own behaviour. As I've said before, I've belabelled what the entertainment industry are guilty of from their past, present, and probably their future as well. We're talking about murder. We're talking about prostitution. We're talking about drug abuse, alcohol abuse, paedophilia. It's all there in Hollywood. Meanwhile, the LAPD, that's basically in the remit of Hollywood, turns a blind eye. That's the corruption and toxicity in Hollywood. And you want to talk to me, us, about toxic fandom because you wave the red rag, trigger some mentally unstable people, then you wonder how it all erupts. You do it on purpose, and it's all about hatred. Well, I'm about more love than hate. I love good movies. I love good entertainment, but that is few and far between now because the entertainment industry is now the political industry. It's all about alt-left politics speak, and that's the end of it. The industry is pretty much dead, and I'm happy that probably one of the final great things that we see from this industry, this RIP dead industry, is Zack Snyder's Justice League, one of the last properly made films in a director's image, right? With his artistic integrity, that we can sit back and say, this is beautiful. This is not about politics. This is about human emotions, the human condition. Each one of these characters being given something really important to do. It was an amazing film, and it may be the last great movie that we ever see. Wow, that was really difficult for me to talk about because you've got to understand with me, when things like that trigger me, I've got to be very careful what I say. I don't want to lose my platform. It's very, very difficult because I'm not a political person. I'm a person of fun. I love my entertainment. I love my movies. I love to smoke. I love to drink alcohol. I just want to party, man, and enjoy my entertainment. And these people are killing this industry that I'm a part of as well, and it breaks my heart. You know, we talk about, mental health. How can anyone's mental health not be damaged by the conversations going on in the entertainment industry? They've taken our entertainment industry and made it all about political commentary, and it's very sad. And you know what, everyone? It breaks my heart. So finally today, let's talk about something that's a little bit light. Harley Quinn should be the one to kill Leto's Joker, not Batman. All right, I did say light, maybe not so light. The Snyder Cut of Justice League's nightmare sequence insists Batman will eventually kill the Joker, but Harley Quinn truly deserves the honour by Michael Kennedy of Screen Rant. The nightmare sequence in Zack Snyder's Justice League insists Batman will eventually kill the Joker, but Harley Quinn truly deserves the honour. The subject of what Joker would be doing in the Snyder Cut has been hot topic ever since it was announced he would appear, as the character had no part in the original Justice League production. It was eventually revealed that Joker would be part of another glimpse had by Bruce Wayne of the nightmare future, a dystopian wasteland in which superheroes are hunted by an evil Superman. Many fans grew quite excited about the prospect, as their Snyder Cut scene represented the first proper interaction between Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker. While Batman and Joker had a high-speed chase during flashback in Suicide Squad, Batman's only face-to-face encounter with Harley... Sorry, say that again. Had a high-speed chase during a flashback in Suicide Squad. Batman's only face-to-face encounter was with Harley, who he rescued from the sea after she and Joker had taken a deranged plunge of Gotham Pier. Not that she was very grateful, that's what makes the mention of Harley during the Snyder Cut's Batman and Joker epilogue seem so interesting. According to Batman, he promised dying Harley that he would kill the Joker for her, and not in a quick and painless fashion either. That suggests that sometime in that timeline, Joker himself may have mortally wounded Harley, or at least betrayed her severely. While Batman insists he will eventually kill Joker, complete with an expletive, if the nightmare future is somehow averted or undone, Harley needs to be the one to take her pudding out. Whether it be on screen or on the page, Batman has killed the Joker in more than one scenario, despite his usual stance against taking lives. Sometimes even Batman can be pushed over the edge. Still, one of the issues some fans have had with Ben Affleck's DCEU Batman is his seeming willingness to kill an enemy as if it wasn't a big deal. Well, do you know what? I don't care. And yes, when he kills people, it doesn't seem like he's bothered because he's an older Batman who's been through so much shit. He's lost so much He has that rage in him. And he's thinking, these guys are fucking scum. These people are villains. You want to kill me? I'm going to kill you first. It's kill or be killed. This is Snyder's Batman. You either accept that or you don't. Having him massacre the Joker might be satisfying in the moment, but it would definitely end up angering just as many people as it pleased. That said, Batman's usual morals aren't the main reason he shouldn't kill the Joker, and Harley Quinn should. Harley's relationship with the Joker was always very one-sided, in that despite her often bizarre behaviour, she's capable of actual emotion and genuinely loves Mr. J. Conversely, Joker's feelings towards her are nothing close to love. He might be fond of her, but he also sees her as his property and basically a toy for his amusement. He only has loyalty to her as far as it suits his own needs and desires. It's not all surprising that he would eventually play a role in her death, especially since, as shown off on her emotional journey through both Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, Harley's years by the Joker's side did not leave her entirely without lines, even she doesn't want to cross. If the Joker had never come into Harley's life back when she was a doctor at Arkham Asylum, one wonders if she would have been able to get control of her clear mental instability and gone on to help people by the time Zack Snyder's Justice League takes place. Instead, he twisted and moulded her into a tool for his dark work, all while pretending to share her feelings of love. No one has hurt Harley more than Joker, and for that reason, she deserves to be the one that wipes him out of the main DCEU timeline. You forget one thing, Mr. Kennedy. The Joker cold-bloodedly beat Dick Grayson to death. So with your kind of narrative, really, it should kind of Batman and Harley could duke it out to who wants to kill the Joker. They both have got good reasons. But here's another thing. We know in the air cut, or apparently in the air cut from what I hear from other fans and other Joker fans, that Harley manipulates Joker as much as Joker manipulates her. It's an even kill. I think there is a misunderstanding of this because Harley's a woman and we live in these polarizing times where women are good and men are bad. I think this is what we're trying to do now, right? Because the world's gone nuts, right? We're trying to make Harley this innocent creature who has got love inside her. Look at how they're framing her in the Harley Quinn animated series as an innocent. And once she gets rid of Mr. J, everything is okay. She's a better person. No, I'm sorry. Harley Quinn and the Joker are just as bad as each other. They're fucking insane and they made a great couple. And how many times have we seen, male and female killing teams out there who are also lovers? You can't say that one's more innocent than the other, but we do live in these dystopian times. And I think Michael Kennedy is coming from that tact. But no, Harley Quinn doesn't deserve to kill the Joker more than Batman does. You could even ask that probably Harley wouldn't have it in her to kill the Joker because there's a little piece in her that loves Mr. J. You know why she loves Mr. J? Because he's dangerous. And he says, Harley, it's okay to be dangerous. And they're dangerous together. And as fucked up as that sounds, there's equality in that relationship. And to try and frame it as the Joker's manipulation on her and Harley's this fun-loving, lovely person who was only fucked up by the Joker isn't really paying attention to Bruce Timm's original work on the actual character. But I'll leave it there for today. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.